I'm covering two functions in this video. It's called settlement as well as settlement details. And as the name suggests, it's related to the settlement, the actual money that hits your account that is in your transaction and orders report. So before I start, some basic prerequisites with all of our functions is that you have your subscription ID entered into the add-on. If it doesn't save for whatever reason, make sure you do it in incognito mode because Google is caching your drive. And you've got your nickname. So for example, as we do the formulas, you'll see that it asks you for a seller ID. So it's either your Amazon seller ID or the nickname that you added into Gorilla ROI in your account. And depending on your location, we're either going to use a comma or a semicolon. So if you are in Europe or if you're in a Spanish speaking country, use semicolon. So let's get started. Okay, first one is settlement. It's going to show you the ID as well as the actual amounts and the currency that was transferred to your bank account. The formula is very simple. It's just gorilla underscore settlement, and there's only two required inputs. The others are optional. So the first one is obviously going to be your seller ID or the name. So if it was like my shoe store New York or something like that, that's what you'd enter. You can manually type that in as like shoe store, etc. But in this case, I have it entered into H1, so I'm going to use a cell reference, comma, and for the period, I'm going to do last week, comma, and then I'm going to close out this formula. Now, just let it load. And then based on today's date last week, it's going to only show one. Now, let me extend this one down to last month. And now it's going to pull in all of this information. So it's going to do it across all of the accounts for the particular seller that you have selected. Now, with this information, the next step is going into the detailed settlement details, right? And this one is currently loading. There's over 100,000 data points on this. So in order to do this, the formula again is very simple. Follow the step-by-step message box. The first one is going to tell you, actually, let me start that again. I'm going to, as you type it in, you'll see that the formula will drop down and then you can select the one that you want to go with. Gorilla underscore settlement. And then you'll see these two, select details. For the seller ID again, I'm going to select H1, comma. For the period, I'm going to do, let's say I want to get the details for last month again, comma, and the settlement ID. So this is a required input. If you go down into this box, you'll see that it doesn't have the word optional. So in other words, this formula requires three inputs for it to work. And the third one is going to be the settlement ID. Now you can see how the first formula, settlement, plays a role where you can actually list it to get the ID and then feed it into this formula. So here I'm going to select, say, something simple like A4, and then I'm going to close this formula out. Okay, and because it's a small settlement, it's only going to have a few items. If I expand this out to a bigger one, so A5, where it's got over 500,000, okay, this is going to take a while because it's literally loading over six figures of, or over 100,000 rows, right? So the way we do it is we also split it up into pages. Google is going to time out. So rather than trying to display 100,000, 200,000 rows of data, we split it up into 20,000 chunks. That's where the fourth parameter, the page, plays a role. So if you want to see the second page of results, then you would enter comma 2, or for the third page of results, comma 3. And this way you can actually get all of the transactions associated with this settlement ID without having a timeout. By default, if you leave it blank, it's only going to show you the first page of results. And you can see this because if I click on here, control down, it's going to go to the last row and okay, get it out of my face. You'll see that the last row of data is in the 20,000 row 20,003. Okay, so you can see that it's split up into chunks of 20,000. Okay, so I hope you see how that works and how powerful this is to actually reconcile your finances and provide it to your bookkeepers or your accountants or whoever may need this data.